Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your chancellor of cheerfulness, your pharaoh of physical media, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett. And once again, I'm Robcasting at you. You imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This would be Robservations, episode number 651. My God, has it been that many? Well, yes, it has. And as many of you know, the first comic book series that I ever collected was, of course, the Justice League of America. The first one I remember buying was issue 114. I was talking about that just last week. That was a 100-page, giant-sized comic. It probably only cost 60 cents. And what entertainment value it was. And the thing that struck me the most about that was it had Earth 3, the crime syndicate, the evil counterparts, very mirror universe of our Justice League. Also, it was part of the team-up of the Justice League and the Justice Society, which I loved. And the whole how many years the Justice Society, that Earth 2 was behind Earth 1, two Supermans, two Wonder Womans, two Loises. I loved all of that stuff when I was a kid. And I'll tell you, of all the members of the Justice Society, it was Dr. Fate. I don't know, there was just something about the colors, the yellow, the blue, the gold helmet. I love Dr. Fate. I mean, I kind of loved all the Justice Society, but I had a particular affection for Dr. Fate. And of course, we did see Dr. Fate in the Smallville series, and he was in the animated shows, Justice League Unlimited, that kind of thing. We saw Dr. Fate around. Dr. Fate is not somebody that's completely unknown to us. Well, as many of you know, the Black Adam movie with Dwayne Johnson finally, after 100 million years of development, begins shooting next week. Well, today, in Heat Vision, in the Hollywood Reporter, the news dropped, actually it dropped at 2:50 in the afternoon by Boris Kitt, that Pierce Brosnan is joining the cast of Black Adam to play none other than Dr. Fate. And first of all, great casting. Can't believe it's happening. Look, I already thought Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Dwayne Johnson looks great as Black Adam. I mean, he's the closest thing to a real superhero we're ever going to get. And Black Adam's perfect for him, especially if you're a Kingdom Come fan, if you read that great DC graphic novel. I mean, he does look the part, and I think it's going to be great to see him as Black Adam. But the fact that Dr. Fate is joining, I mean, Dr. Fate, I guess he's kind of like he's the DC equivalent of Doctor Strange, sort of. The order and chaos. I mean, there's a lot of this. There's a lot of strange in Fate, but Fate's kind of more. Well, I guess I always thought of him as more sci-fi and less fantasy, just because of his costume. It kind of looks like a cross. The original Fate costume looked like it was from a 50s sci-fi epic, or maybe even a pulp serial sci-fi epic from like early Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon or something. I've always been a fan of Dr. Fate. So, I was overjoyed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls across these 28 known galaxies. I was overjoyed seeing this article in the Hollywood Reporter. And for some reason, I can't pull it up. There's a little technical snafu, but I'll read it for you. Boris Kitt, again, reported on this, and it was dropped at 2:50, about an hour ago, on the Hollywood Reporter. It's an exclusive story to the Hollywood Reporter. Black Adam, Pierce Brosnan to play DC hero Dr. Fate opposite Dwayne Johnson. Tomorrow will never die now that the Justice Society is complete in New Line's DC superhero movie. The name is Fate. Dr. Fate. In the first superhero foray of his career, what do you mean, James Bond isn't a superhero? Pierce Brosnan has nabbed the plum role of classic hero Dr. Fate opposite Dwayne Johnson in Black Adam, New Line's action-adventure project featuring the DC Comics anti-hero. Brosnan, known for being one of only a handful of actors to inhabit the James Bond mantle, is the last key member of the roll call for the production that will feature the big screen debut of the Justice Society, DC's precursor to the Justice League that takes a familial and multi-generational approach to heroics. Already suited up are Aldous Hodge as Hawkman, Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher, and Quintessa Swindell as Cyclone. Black Adam is the second New Line DC film following 2019's critical and commercial hit Shazam, with the two characters, Shazam and Black Adam, being arch rivals in the DC universe. The project is headed toward an April start of production in Atlanta. Plot details are being kept shrouded behind a veil of secrecy, as are character details for Marwan Kenzari, the Aladdin and Old Guard actor who is also in the cast. Now, for all of you who are asking yourselves, which version of Dr. Fate is Pierce Brosnan going to play? Well, thankfully for all of you old school fans, Brosnan will play Kent Nelson, a.k.a. the good Dr. Fate, a son of an archaeologist who was taught sorcery skills and given the magical helmet of fate. The character, created by Gardner Fox and Howard Sherman, is one of DC's oldest characters, having first appeared in 1940's More Fun Comics number 5. Jaime Collet-Serra, who also directed Johnson opposite Emily Blunt in Disney's upcoming Jungle Cruise, is directing Black Adam. Johnson, Danny Garcia, and Hiram Garcia of Seven Bucks Productions are producing, with Beau Flynn of Flynn Pictures Company. The project reunites the team behind Jungle Cruise, which is currently set to open on July 30th, 2021. Flynn Picture Company's Scott Sheldon is serving as executive producer. Rory Haynes and Shorab Noshervani wrote the latest draft, with Adam Zatikil writing the previous draft. Brosnan is the veteran actor with dozens of credits, although he may be best known globally for his suave and sophisticated take on James Bond in the 007 movies in the 1990s and early 2000s, which grossed almost $1.5 billion. He also starred in the hit remake of The Thomas Crown Affair, the first studio project under his Irish Dreamtime production banner, as well as the blockbuster Mamma Mia, and the critically acclaimed thrillers The Matador and The Ghost Rider. The actor and environmentalist philanthropist was most recently seen in Netflix's comedy Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, alongside Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, and next appears in the musical adaptation of the classic fairy tale Cinderella, releasing this July. Brosnan is repped by CAA Curtis Brown and Hanson Jacobson. I got to tell you, I'm so excited for this because, I mean, look, would I have liked to see, I hear they're doing a Dr. Midnight movie or an Hour Man movie. I mean, I would have liked to have seen more of the classic lineup of the JSA, but hey, man, I'll take it. I will take it. Give me the Justice Society of America. I think it's very exciting. And of course, you know, they're creating their own little Shazam verse, which I think is great. The real question is this a period piece? Is this going to be the Justice Society of the 40s and 50s? Which I think would really be interesting. I don't think it is, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all works together. Is this Earth S they're talking about? I mean, obviously, at the end of Shazam, we did see Superman in Cavill's Superman suit. So, canonically, does this all tie together? I don't know. I know it's the DC multiverse now, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But my whole affection for the Justice Society really comes out of the fact that they always teamed up with the Justice League. That's how I began my love of the Justice Society characters. And, you know, there's been a female Dr. Fate. There's been all kinds of different Dr. Fates, but Kent Nelson is that's the Dr. Fate. That's the canonical, classical Dr. Fate. It's very exciting. I think this is a great choice. I think Pierce Brosnan will kill it. You know, I always kind of thought Dr. Fate was European, or at least, you know, everybody who has a British accent, an upscale British accent always sounds smarter to Americans. So I'm really, really glad that we are getting this version of Dr. Fate. Really fantastic. I can't wait to see that costume. And this means that maybe, for the most part, we'll probably be getting a hot toy of Dr. Fate, hopefully a hot toy of all of the Justice Society members, and I am so there for that. Very, very, very exciting. So, you know what? I can't wait. I am really excited for this. Black Adam, I mean, it really, to me, depends on the tone. I thought Shazam was really hit and miss. I liked the latter half when the rest of the Shazam family was introduced, the Marvel family. I thought that was great. It was just all over the place tonally for me, and I didn't love it. I want it to be better. I hope Black Adam is better. I think we haven't seen Jungle Cruise, so we don't know whether this team's going to gel. It sounds like it probably has, which is why they're making the film. I'm very excited about this movie, the Black Adam movie, and now I'm just even that much more excited. So we shall see how good it's going to be. But I'm excited that we're getting a Black Adam movie. And now, what do you guys say about whatever? Keith O'Neill is here. Keith O'Neill says, "Hey Rob, last week, after years of hearing whispers of its existence and a long-fought battle from fans, the maker above blessed us with Zack Snyder's Justice League. I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought the movie was much better than what we got in 2017. The story made so much more sense, and Ray Fisher shined as Cyborg. However, I also watched the 2017 version a few days afterwards just to compare and contrast the two versions. To my own surprise, it had a couple of moments I thought actually worked better overall. First, I enjoyed the use of Icky Thump by the White Stripes more when Aquaman dives into the ocean after rescuing the fisherman. I know Snyder tended to use operatic and original scores in his DCEU films, but I just thought that song fit that particular moment perfectly. Also, I really missed the save one person moment with Batman and Flash. To me, that's what Batman would do if a League member suddenly had nerves before a daunting mission. Get them to calm down and focus on the task at hand. Did you think there was anything at all you enjoyed more from the original version? Well, here's the thing. There's one scene that I really liked, but I can't see it in Snyder's Justice League because it was the scene where Aquaman is opening up to the League and you realize that Wonder Woman's, he's like either stepping on her magic lasso or he's got it wrapped around his foot, so he's being totally honest. Look, it's an amusing scene. It's funny to hear the words coming out of Aquaman's mouth, but it's certainly, I don't think that it's very Joss Whedon. I don't think there was any real place for that in the Snyder Cut. And, to me, again, it's all about authorship and tone. And I think the tone of the Snyder Cut is very consistent. And I really, I like the Snyder Cut so much more. Justice League really made me angry watching it. I felt like I was suffering from tonal whiplash, and I didn't dig it. Didn't dig it. This one comes from Jason King. Hey, Rob, been a fan for a bit and an imagination connoisseur for my entire life. I won't bore you with a lengthy letter, but given the level of fun and wonder that we currently enjoy, if you could have 3 works brought to the big screen in a satisfying way, what would they be? Mine would be Tail Chaser's Song, which I don't know, Hyperion, and Paradise Lost. Well, I'm very familiar with both of those. And Hyperion and Paradise Lost. Hyperion, I think Hyperion would work better as a mini-series, probably. But I would love to see both of those done. I mean, I'm a huge Dan Simmons fan. So, whether you're making Song of Kali, which is set in Calcutta, I would love to see Carrion Comfort. Carrion Comfort is an amazing book. Hyperion, obviously, and Fall of Hyperion. I see those as one book. They were written as one book and published as 2, unfortunately. But I think that's pretty great. But 3 works brought to the screen in a satisfying way, what would they be? Well, one is this script that I'm working on now, which is based on a book I read over 30 years ago that I love. And I'm working on the screenplay, and I have been for a while. I have a finished draft. I'm just revising it, and then I'm going to send it out to some beta readers. And then probably, I would love, if I could make any TV series now, I would love to do Jonathan Mayberry's Joe Ledger series. I love the Joe Ledger series. Joe Ledger is basically what Jonathan Mayberry has done is in the Joe Ledger books, and by the way, I highly recommend them. I think Patient Zero is the first book. But the Joe Ledger series basically take all of your classic B-movie tropes, vampires, werewolves, evil scientists, aliens, zombies, you name it. But imagine all of those things in a very grounded and realistic context, more X-Files-esque. But the protagonists of these books is the DMS, the Department of Military Science, which doesn't exist, it's made up. And the leader of that team is Joe Ledger. And they're basically like a Delta Force, but they deal with real-life vampires and zombies and mad scientists and crazy conspiracies. And each book delves into, like, one book's about aliens, one book is about Cthulhu and Lovecraftian demons, and another book is about genetic engineers that are like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of a thing. And they're just wildly entertaining. So, again, not to the big screen on that, but to the small screen. And they tried to do it. Actually, I actually have a script for a Joe Ledger series that it was going to be done for CBS, but it's written as a procedural. And it's got to be a series. And you got to treat each book as a full season. Each book is a season because a lot of the characters come back in different seasons, and you just got to do it that way. So if you haven't delved into Joe Ledger, and you got to read the books in order. So, and they used to come out every April. Now they're pushed to the holiday times, but that's fantastic. I would love to see that. And my dream big budget film project, it's crazy, another horror film, Robert McCammon's novel, They Thirst. I've wanted to see that since I was 14 years old. I was a junior camp counselor at the Flying Horseshoe Ranch in Cle Elum, Washington. I read it at summer camp, and I even read the prologue to My Cabin of Boys. And it scared the shit out of them. The first 10 pages. Tonight there were demons in the hearth. It's so good. And I would love to make that. I don't know if anybody would. Vampires, I mean, are kind of passé now, but these vampires, I'd love to do it. But there's so many others. There's a million different books. I mean, I got so many things here that I would love to. Snow Crash. Honestly, Snow Crash, probably. I mean, I know we've seen Ready Player One, but I would love to see Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash turn into a movie. They've been talking about these things forever. I mean, what I worry about, too, about a lot of these classic books is they have so much money against them because they've been tried to be developed over the course of years. And everyone's taking a crack at the screenplay. They've spent so much money on development. And what happens is if you have a property like a book and a studio just buys the book outright, and then they've been developing the property for years and years and years and years, it just racks up development costs. So it becomes exorbitantly expensive to actually make whatever it is you want to make because you have to cover those costs. And also another thing that I also want to do as a series, I've talked about it before, but is Greg Bear's novel, Anvil of Stars. Boy, do I love that book, and it's right up there. Actually, I'd love to do The Forge of God and Anvil of Stars. They've been trying to do that forever. I've never read a good script of it because they always try and combine. Yeah, anyway, if anybody's interested, I'll tell you how to do those two books and make them right. But those are some of the things that I want to make. I could go on and on and on and on and on. This one comes from Princess Zelda of Hyrule. Princess Zelda of Hyrule writes in and says, "Hi, Rob. I've been watching the show pretty religiously for the past couple of months. Your observations on Star Trek are infused with a deep understanding of what Star Trek actually is, a.k.a. the greatest science fiction series ever. In all seriousness, I just wanted to let you know that I share a very vast love of Star Trek with you. I've been watching Star Trek since I was 7 or 8 years old with The Next Generation, but I grew to love TOS better as I aged. The original series is my favorite Trek, but objectively I feel Deep Space Nine had better writing and took to places it had never been and nobody probably knew it could go. Watching Kirk walk out of the shuttle pod in the motion picture brings a tear to my eye every time. I love his character so much. You and me both, Princess. Anyways, now that I got that out of my system, my question. A few months ago, I overheard a strange name while listening to a live stream. Discworld, Terry Pratchett's series. The people in the stream, who were most probably Midnight's Edge, Nerdrotic, Doomcock, or The Critical Drinker, started praising it. I typed it into my search bar and discovered it was a vast science fiction series written by the great Terry Pratchett. The name Discworld stuck with me because it sounded cool. So eventually I bought the first book, The Color of Magic. Since then, I fall in love with the wit, clever humor, and how shockingly unique the Discworld even is. Anything can happen, yet there are rules. The Science of Discworld books explored this. Also, the books are expertly written and easy to read. Have you ever read a Discworld novel? I'm sure you would be able to appreciate the level of imagination packed into those little books. Big fan. Live long and prosper. Well, thank you so much for all the high praise, Princess Zelda of Hyrule. I have never read... I've never read a Terry Pratchett book aside from Good Omens, which was turned into a series, but he wrote that with Neil Gaiman. I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan. I loved Good Omens, and I've been hearing about Discworld forever. And being a big Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fan, people have always equated the two. I don't quite know why, because I haven't read it, but I would assume that I would figure that out upon reading the books. But I've never read Discworld. To be honest, it's kind of daunting because there's a lot of Discworld to get through. But clearly, if you like it and the way you wax rhapsodic about Star Trek, you and I really do park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. So, I must pick up some Discworld. I really do. I really should, because everyone is everyone's told me to read those for such a long period of time. So yeah. Here's a good one. This comes from Chris. Just Chris. Hi, Rob. I first have to say I have an immense respect for what you're doing in this sphere. Your measured and insightful approach, in addition to the level of professionalism you bring, is something sorely lacking in the sphere you operate. Thank you for bringing some much-needed levity to it. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. In relation to a recent episode of Robservations, episode 643, you were discussing the contrast in opinions regarding the Snyder Cut, and while doing so went into the topic of personal preference. I respect your opinion, as I stated earlier. I believe you have some of the best insights in this sphere, but I'm not sure you made an appropriate distinction when discussing this topic. With regard to the story of your mother, she, as a consumer of this material, is entitled to every opinion you outlined, regardless of what others think, a point which I take without issue. Where the problem lay is professionals should not be afforded the same luxury. The reason Roger Ebert is the greatest movie critic of all time is because when he viewed a film like Akira, it didn't matter that he wasn't a fan of anime. He understood the objective greatness in the art and the artistry that went into crafting such a piece. His personal preference doesn't factor in the same way a music critic, irrespective of their personal proclivity toward hip-hop music, would be a fool to call Johnny Cash a terrible artist because country music wasn't their thing. Unfortunately, the objective appreciation and judgment of film is all but dead. In its wake are nothing but opinion pundits and agenda-driven activists. This is not professional, it only serves to divide and is ultimately destroying the industry. I'm interested to know if I'm alone in witnessing this phenomenon. Is this something you've noticed, and if so, what's the point of the profession? People complain about toxic fandom. I'm sorry to say that these types of critics propagate such divisions. They have a platform, and they have dedicated followers who tend to assume a similar voice and opinion. Quite frankly, I'm tired of the dismissive and disrespectful tone of these people and the toxic environments they're fostering. I firmly believe that if they projected themselves as opinion journalists, as opposed to, say, any sort of authority in relation to film, their fans wouldn't hold these incredibly unprofessional takes as nothing more than what they are, an opinion. Thanks, mate. None of this applies to you. You're the last of a dying breed, and I truly admire the work you're doing. Chris. Well, Chris, you know what? I think you make a really important point. Roger Ebert wasn't necessarily a film studies major when he took over as critic for the Chicago Sun-Times. He was Chicago Sun-Times, and Gene Siskel was Chicago Tribune. But the thing is, Roger Ebert became a student of film, and he also was a student of storytelling. I think back to Cahiers du Cinéma, the greatest French film magazine that ever was, and people like Jean-Luc Godard and Francois Truffaut, they were critics that later became filmmakers. And I think, here's the thing. Here's what's happened, for better or for worse, in our film pundit space. There are very few people that really know cinema anymore. Unfortunately, it's kind of a dying breed. I mean, cinema as art form. We really don't have many people that are looking upon cinema anymore as an art form. And that's why when you hear Martin Scorsese talk about, well, superhero movies are choking the space, it's because we have very few alternative films that we... Look, where's Fellini? Scorsese wrote an incredible essay about Fellini. Where is Antonioni? You know, where's Andrei Tarkovsky? We don't have any... The filmmakers that are existing today, it's not that they're bad, but there's nobody working like Antonioni today. I mean, someone could say like Chloe Zhao... like Chloe Zhao is her Nomadland could be considered like a Tarkovsky film. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I need to watch it. That may be true, but you know, I don't think you're gonna have people going to film nights. I mean, some people will, but My Beloved Antonioni trilogy, the Ennui trilogy. Who's ever gonna make movies like that again? Probably no one. But the difference is, I mean, the economics of motion pictures has changed so radically that true cinema, and when Scorsese was saying, does true cinema exist, I knew exactly what he meant. I mean, I came out against him what he was saying, but I get what he meant. And what he means is, look, superhero films are fine. Basically, what we're getting, though, from studios are, in the entertainment space, are essentially B-movies with A-list budgets. And when I say B-movies, I don't mean to be disparaging, because I grew up with B-movies. I love B-movies. I love genre cinema. But if you were going to watch Avengers Endgame, and then you're going to try and sit down and watch My Beloved Ennui trilogy, or a Jean-Pierre Melville movie, like Le Samurai, which I guess would be the closest thing. But if you wanted to watch The Red Circle or Army of Shadows or anything like that, they're going to be a very different experience than watching a Marvel film. And I think that film as art, we've sort of lost that. It's definitely commercial art, but you just can't get a movie, you can't get a quote-unquote art film made anymore because of the world that we live in. And I think your point is well taken. Everybody now in the YouTube space, I think, is, look, everybody grew up watching movies. We're the post-VCR, post-cable generation, just like we're the post-geek singularity. So people grew up movie fans, and everybody in this space is a movie fan. However, are they qualified to really talk about cinema? I don't know. I don't meet a lot of people in this space that are very well-rounded. This is not a criticism. It's just that we don't live in a world anymore where people are going to see, like Last Year at Marienbad. I went and saw Last Year at Marienbad. It played at the ArcLight about 5 years ago. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen it on the big screen before. It's quite the movie. And it's quite a puzzling, I think, exhilarating film to watch. I don't think we get many movies or many people today to sit down and watch Last Year at Marienbad. Or I think about movies like Rome Open City, you know, or De Sica's The Bicycle Thieves, or just, pardon me, Bicycle Thieves, not the. It's not The Bicycle Thief, it's Bicycle Thieves. I know. But who's going to watch these things? Now, you watch them in film school, but I was watching them in film school 30 years ago. I can't even imagine what it's like to go to film school now and try and watch even what I was watching at USC 30 years ago. Would students even bother? Like, I don't know. But I think, like, your point is well taken. We've really, I think, lost... That's not to say there isn't a lot of great film analysis, but it's few and far between these days. And it's because I think there's not a lot of people that are looking at movies as an art form. I mean, they say it's art, but they don't really know. You know, they haven't... If you talk to somebody about neorealism or the French New Wave, they'd be looking at you going, huh? What? You know, today, actually it was yesterday, but I got it today. One of my favorite directors of all time is Wong Kar-wai. And to be honest, hadn't seen a Wong Kar-wai movie until Quentin Tarantino used his clout, created his distribution company Rolling Thunder, and brought Chungking Express to America. Chungking Express blew me away. And when I say blew me away, it's not exactly a it's not Apocalypse Now. It's more intimate, but he was so evocative. He could tell a crime story about hired killers or whatever, and yet could still make it romantic and lyrical. And what can I tell you? I mean, Fallen Angels and Chungking Express, those two movies, they were really conceived of together. If you want to have a great time at the movies, something different, something unique that you might not have seen before, watch Chungking Express and Fallen Angels together. Watch them the same night, and you'll see why. But Days of Being Wild, the box set came out from Criterion this week. And if you really want to see In the Mood for Love, oh my God. You know, these are movies that are very different from what most people are watching, that are certainly reporting in this space. But please delve into Wong Kar-wai's catalog of films, because my God, I think Criterion brought them out individually. I think, but there's also the box set. It's worth getting. He's incredible, but nobody's talking about these movies. I mean, this Wong Kar-wai box set, I already have all these movies, but I want to see these new transfers. And I mean, my God, I think unfortunately, cinema as art, as opposed to cinema as commercial entertainment, has gone away. And I think unfortunately, there's not a lot of people talking about those things, and it bums me out. Tyler H. No, pardon me, it's not Tyler, it's Taylor. Taylor H., like Taylor is Charlton Heston's character in Planet of the Apes. Taylor. Greetings and salutations, Robservations. I like that. You know, I think that's the first time I've read that as one. Greetings and salutations, Robservations. I was going to put this in the subject of my letter, so let me preface this with the title of this letter to you and my fellow imagination connoisseurs. And I know it'll make everyone's head spin, but hear me out. The hope everyone forgets in the Snyderverse. First, I found your channel through Midnight's Edge. They shared a clip of the entire readout of Star Wars Episode 9, the script you received. I absolutely loved how you presented things as not only someone inside the industry, but as one of us, the fans. I hopped over, and I've been subscribed ever since. I enjoyed every episode I've tuned into. Well, thank you very much. Hell, I even dragged my boyfriend into watching your content, and he even wrote in before me. Well, Taylor, thank you very much. I've considered myself a Snyder fan ever since Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Cut. Now, that doesn't mean I love all of his movies, namely Sucker Punch, but I enjoy how he world builds and tells a story. I decided to watch the true cut of the movie and wait for its Blu-ray release. I instantly fell in love with the movie. I grew up on the animated Batman and Justice League series, so I loved seeing a take on Bruce Wayne that wasn't afraid to show how dark and troubled he was, and put that up against the ideals of Superman. Yes, I've been up and down the argument chain about BVS and Man of Steel, and yes, I went and saw the horrid Whedon version of Justice League in theaters, and I hated it. It was trying to take these beloved DC heroes I had, regardless of Snyder's take on them, and fit them into the assumed molds of the MCU. That was part of why I love the Snyderverse so much. It isn't the MCU. It's an alternative to that formula, and that's okay. You had a viewer write in yesterday talking about how Superman of the Snyderverse isn't hopeful and isn't someone that can inspire people. I had an argument with my best friend about the Snyderverse as well. So between the two and the fact that we now have the mythical unicorn that is Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think I can articulate why I disagree with this perception that he isn't a hopeful and inspiring Superman. It's not Superman that isn't hopeful or uninspiring. It's us, the world. The Snyderverse paints a world of DC that is very much like our own world. The news media throws narratives around, politicians weigh in on news channels. Hell, even Lois leaks her story about Superman to a dude who runs a conspiracy blog. This iteration of the DC world is a self-reflection of the real world we live in. It's cynical, it's dark, we fight, we presume the worst intentions of one another. We as people have very little faith in one another. Bruce Wayne sums it up perfectly in one of my favorite lines of the movie. We fight, we kill, we betray one another, but we can rebuild. We can do better. We will. We have to. Superman isn't lacking the embodiment of the values everyone wants him to have, truth, justice, the American way. As he tells the general, I grew up in Kansas. That's as American as it gets. What Superman faces is a world that does not value him or the values he embodies. Jonathan Kent was afraid of the world rejecting his son, hurting him, and failing to see the inherent goodness inside of him. Jor-El saw the potential his son had by embodying the one thing that Krypton had lost: freedom of choice, agency. Throughout Man of Steel and BVS, we are seeing Superman trying to live up to these ideals and beliefs that both men had but ultimately are afraid of the rejection of the world. After all, he turns on the news and all he sees is late-night talk show hosts, politicians, and scientists going about their perceptions of Superman and what he should and shouldn't answer to. He hasn't thrown away those values instilled in him by the Kents and his birth parents. But the world has. That is the crux of the storyline of Bruce Wayne in BVS. He is the embodiment of all that paranoia, fear, and anger, and is the mortal man lashing out at the godlike Titan figure that is trying to show us better. In the end, Superman chooses the flawed people of Earth who have rejected him and kills Doomsday, a creature created of Krypton. It's only then that the world and Bruce realize what they've really lost. They had a chance at hope, to be better, and they didn't see it. It slipped through their fingers, and now they were left in a world trying to reclaim and rediscover that hope in themselves. Amanda Waller made the Suicide Squad the worst of the worst to fight the good fight. Bruce found all the scattered peoples of Earth and brought them together to fight a battle that might have seemed hopeless. But as Bruce says a few times in Zack Snyder's Justice League, faith and hope. He believed that his team could do it, and when it was obvious they couldn't, they all agreed to bring back what would truly lead them to victory. Superman. Barry Allen himself says that Superman was his hero. Cyborg learns not only faith in himself, but learns the hope his father had for him to become a better man after his accident. Diana even relearns the hope and beauty in mankind. Arthur, well, he learns that not all Atlanteans and not all humans are bad. As the League defeats Steppenwolf, a new day dawns. They all smile at one another. There is a hope for that world that no matter what comes at them, they can band together and fight it off. They each have healed from their troubled wounds that brought them together in the League and are now ready to take the first steps as Earth's truly mightiest heroes. It all goes back to Jor-El's line. You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun, Cal. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders. It isn't that Superman doesn't start out hopeful and the perfect iconography of a hero. It's that the world doesn't see him that way. Fans put ideas of what they want the movie to be like, the story to be, but I feel they missed the biggest narrative beat of the Snyderverse. It was right in the first movie, and I feel the critics of Superman in that movie have forgotten it, especially as BVS came out. Superman is the ideal the world strives to, once they realize that is what he is. It just took losing something that is good and precious for us to realize it. A sad, heartbreaking, and not fun life lesson to learn, but you have to learn it in order for that to matter. The dark has to come before the dawn. The Empire has to strike back for the impact of the Jedi returning to matter. All hope of victory has to be lost so that Gandalf, the rider of the Rohirrim, their return matters. Riders of the Rohirrim. It is a lesson that even the world is at its darkest, it will get better. I would challenge all those who don't like the Superman of the Snyderverse to rewatch the now trilogy with this in mind. Put aside the fact that he doesn't look, sound, or maybe act in what you define by the golden age of comics. Look at the story the movie is telling. Watch and see how this world stumbles, falls, and then ultimately joins the Man of Tomorrow in the sunrise of a new day. If you didn't have BVS to set that stage, then how would that moment at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League feel earned? And to be fair, we had no idea this is where it was going when BVS was released. Maybe that's a fault on our end as viewers. We've become so used to the fact that we can get instant payoff and gratification that we simply can't sit back and let someone tell us a story now. Thank you for taking the time to read this horrendously long letter, but I felt deep down it had to be shared. Not that I think this will change minds or move mountains, just a point that a Snyderverse fan wants to make to those who may not understand why she loves this story and wants to see where it can go next. It's not perfect, but nobody is. After all, we're all mortals looking for the man of tomorrow to follow. Best wishes, and keep Robcasting. What a lovely letter. Taylor, your boyfriend clearly is a lucky man. I love your thoughtful take on this, and I tend to agree with you. I liked I've liked the take. I like Man of Steel. I like the ultimate version of BVS better, and I do like Zack Snyder's Justice League very much. And I think you really kind of nailed it. I've always thought that this trilogy now is about the birth of Superman. That Superman, the death and resurrection he goes through is what makes him the man he is today. I mean, obviously, the idea of the Doomsday story and the death of Superman came in the 90s, so Superman had been around for a long time. But I think the way it was adapted in this particular series of films works out really well, ultimately. The problem was we didn't have the third part. I'm not one of those people. You're not going to get me putting hashtag restore the Snyderverse. We got the Snyderverse. We have 3 great movies. It's done. And what could have been, sure, but there was no guarantee if this was the third movie and you got to finish it in the first place that we'd get more. I like the fact the table is set. It's like reading a comic book with lingering questions. But you're right. I think the idea of what Superman represents is it's not Superman that's changed, it's the world. It's our world. I agree with that totally. Very astute. What a lovely letter. Thank you for writing in. I very much appreciate it. Sky writes in and says, "Hi, Rob. On occasion, you have given us all the advice to go out and live life. Life will happen to you. I'm still working on this, but I want to let you know how tremendous these words have been for my motivation to go out. I still don't go out often, but I'm trying, and whenever I have the time, I hear your words urging me to go out. Social situations are very difficult for me, and I just wanted to say thank you for not only hosting a great platform for fandom, but for giving some of us your great wisdom." Sky. Wow. By the way, I don't pick these letters because they say nice things about me, but Sky, that's very nice of you to say. But I have to say, I learned that idea from somebody else. That I heard it from, actually, a couple of friends of mine when I was younger. They were much older than me. And they sort of instilled in me the idea of, like, look, you know what? It's always easier to stay at home. You can talk yourself out of doing anything. Believe me, I've done it. Oh, I don't want to go out. We can't. I'll just stay home. There's no risk involved. But my feeling about all that, and I've told the story often that when I was voted, I was on the senior council, high school, the student council when I was in my senior in high school. There was 6 people on the council. There was 2 people, or there was 4 people that were on the council, and then they voted in 2 other people. I ran for student council president. I lost. And then the student council that was elected voted myself and Kelly Goto onto the council, so there was 6 of us. And those people, the 6 of us, we all were given the opportunity to go to a leadership camp between our junior and senior year in high school. So what we did in the state of Washington is that student government officers would go to it was like summer camp. We went to a summer camp for a week and met all these other people that were like us. And I met a lot of great people that were sort of scattered all over the state. And it was then, normally I would just not bother because you'd have to drive all over the place. But I made a conscious choice that summer that after leadership camp was over, I went to a lot of different places and went to parties and went to overnights and met people, drove all over the place. Sometimes I'd take ferries to places, and I just made that a priority. And I realized, because normally it was people I'd only met a few of them, so I would go to a party. Like, I went to some raging summer parties. Like, there was one in Paulsbo that was a major rager, and it was probably, I don't know, 150 people. It was pretty great, but I did crash overnight at that party, and that was one of these great parties where in the morning people came by and cleaned up, which I don't understand. Like, you want to continue to throw your major ragers, then you need to have your friends come over and clean up the house, because you don't want your parents to know you threw one. And when people come over and clean up, you make everything look good. You make sure people are responsible. That way, when you want to have a major rager in the future, you can. And so it was that kind of group setting. But you just got to make the time. I mean, I'm a big proponent of doing things. I mean, like I would advocate. I think once I said on the show that take a 2-hour. You know how they have the 3-hour tour on Gilligan's Island? That's too much. Take a 2-hour tour. Doesn't matter where you are. I don't care where you live in the world. Wherever you live in the world, just pick a day. I mean, it's hard during the pandemic. Pick a day, and here's your if you drive 60 miles an hour like in the US, pick some place that's 120 miles from where you are. Somewhere. 360 degrees, 120 miles, doesn't matter where, but it's got to be some place you've never been, some town. You know, whatever it is, just some place, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be glamorous. You don't even have to have heard of it before. But pick it. Get up at like, I don't know, 6 a.m., right? And then go with a friend, because you got to go with somebody. I mean, you can go by yourself, but it's much more fun if you take somebody with you, because you experience it together. Significant other, best friend, whatever, and go to that place. Like, hit the road by 6:30. So by 8:30, hopefully, you'll roll into town, if it's a city or a town or whatever, and go have breakfast, go find some, and don't go to a chain restaurant. Go to like a diner, a Greasy Spoon or something that's part of that town. Do a little research. And just wander around this town and go check it out. You know, but plan on going to places like, go to a bar. And I don't mean, like, again, not a bar that's part of a chain restaurant. Go find a local pub and go hang out, talk to the bartender, shoot some pool with some locals, whatever. And just make a day of it. It doesn't matter. And you can leave at 6 at night, get home by 8, do whatever you want, feel it. But just go someplace you've never been. Check out the surrounding areas. Read something about the history of wherever it is you're going. Ask people. You know, whenever you go to the grocery store, like, say you're going to buy some bottled water or something, ask the clerk behind the counter, hey, I've never been to this town. Is there anything to see here? Is there a place to go? Is there a favorite restaurant? And just go make a day of it. Who knows what's going to happen? Could be a total bust. You'll still be with a friend of yours and you'll have a good time. But if you start thinking about that and, like, doing it, like, you know, growing up in Washington State is an incredibly beautiful state. There are so many places that you can go to in Washington State that I've never been to. You know, and you lead your life. I mean, I've talked to people. I met people more so 30 years ago when I first moved to LA. I met people that had never left Los Angeles before. When I lived in Tamworth in Australia, Tamworth was basically their country music capital. So it's 450 miles, is it southwest? Maybe it's northwest of Sydney, inland. Man, I met people that had never left Tamworth. As a matter of fact, the place that I was staying in somebody's, like, condo, and the people that ran the facility, they came by one night and they're, like, all mortified. And I've said this before, but they discovered they had relatives in New Zealand and they were going to go visit their relatives. I'm like, oh, great. And they were going to get on a train and go from Tamworth into Sydney, and they were going to take a train, or they were going to take a plane. And they came over, they were kind of sheepish, but they were scared. They were like in their 60s. And they'd never left Tamworth. Their whole lives, they'd never left Tamworth. They've never been to Sydney. They'd never been anywhere. And they were asking me, is it hard? Like, is it terrifying to get on a plane? Like, they didn't know. And it was almost as if they didn't talk to anybody who'd been on a plane either. It was very kind of funny and sweet. And at the same time, just go have adventures. Go out. Get out of the house. And even if you have social anxiety, you know, people aren't going to bite. And for the most part, I have discovered if you ask people questions about where they live or what they do, they tend to open up and try it. Let's go have an adventure. Let's do it. But I appreciate you writing in that you like that advice, and I stand by it. I stand by it. So, absolutely. Sky also writes in and says, "Hello, I'm a fan of Joss Whedon's work in general. I don't know him personally, and I can often separate the art from the artist, something I wish more people could do. Did you see the trailer for The Nevers? I'm all in. Are you interested in the show?" I am totally interested in The Nevers. It looks great. I'll totally watch it. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, it looks good. And I tend to separate the art from the artist as well. So I know exactly where you're coming from there. This one comes from Stuart Winstanley. Hi, Rob. I stumbled over here from seeing you on John Campea. I've been watching him for years, and I thought I'd check out some Robservations. I got to say that I love the pace of the show. Your thoughtful responses to insightful questions is very enjoyable watching. Something that I find confusing is that nobody is talking about the upcoming Avatar films. I love the experience of watching the original in the cinema. Me too. The 3D was unbelievable. What I find confusing is that nobody seems to be anticipating something spectacular. I mean, do you think James Cameron would be taking so long to deliver a few films for which the creature designs and world building already exist? I think he just might have something up his sleeve. A leap forward in technology, glasses less, 3D. I'd really love to hear your thoughts as somebody who works in the industry. Cheers to yourself and the Post-Geek singularity, Stu. Well, Stuart, you and I definitely park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. I'm a huge James Cameron fan. I think he's the ultimate. He's the ultimate auteurist popular filmmaker. Now, of course, people would say, "Oh, well, Rob, what about Steven Spielberg?" I'm talking about maybe he's the ultimate popular blue-collar auteurist filmmaker. You know, you watch James Cameron's movies, they just deliver the goods. I mean, I don't think James Cameron is the deepest thinker in the world. I don't think he could make, for instance, Catch Me If You Can. I mean, he probably could, but it's not his thing. You know, he's very much a meat and potatoes kind of guy, but he serves the best meat and potatoes you can buy. Like if your favorite thing is Texas barbecue, James Cameron is the equivalent of good Texas barbecue, or maybe the best Texas barbecue you can find. And I don't understand why people are Titanic. You just read about, if you lived in LA, which I did, and you read the trades, it was going to be a disaster. No one's going to go. It was going to sink 20th Century Fox and Paramount. The rest is history. Avatar, same kind of thing. People, oh my God, Avatar. It's recouped, or it's recouped. That's not the right word. Well, maybe it is. It has retaken the crown of the biggest box office success of all time. Look, I don't understand people. I watch Avatar, and I like Avatar a great deal. I watch it with my jaw on the floor. I mean, knowing how the movie was made and knowing how difficult it was to make. I mean, there are scenes like that when the Na'vi go up and they climb the 70s prog rock album cover mountains, and they go to fly on those dragons for the first time, and Jake Sully flies for the first time. I mean, that is peak fantasy, breathtaking filmmaking. If you saw that in IMAX 3D, mind-blowing. Is it a classical kind of a scene? Somebody learning to ride a horse, learning to ride whatever animal. What is it? The Makta? I forget. It's that's the big dragon. He comes in the end. I forget what they call those things. But that sequence is just, that's why you go to the movies, man. No one knows how to do that kind of stuff better than James Cameron. And now it's like, I listen to people bag on Avatar, like, oh, it's left no pop culture footprint. Like, what do you mean? It's the highest grossing movie of all time. Just because you don't have action figures and you're not playing an Avatar video game, you know, it was a one-off, I mean, so far. And look, all I know is I took my mom to see it when she was 70, 12 years ago. And I've told the story before on the channel. She was all, her eyes were bugging out of her skull, and she was like, how did they do that? I mean, even my unimaginative, pragmatic mother was blown away by Avatar. I loved it. Sure, is it Fern Gully or Pocahontas? Of course, it's classical storytelling. You know, that story's been told, those weren't the first times the story was told, you know. I mean, that's like saying the New World is just the Pocahontas story again. Well, it kind of is, but you know what I mean? It's told in a different way. It's Dances with Wolves in space. Like, that's a bad thing. I mean, it's an astonishing achievement, and I can't wait to see. And I think you're right. I think old Jimmy Boy, James Cameron, has been doing the R&D for the movie industry for the last 35 years, practically. I mean, The Abyss was, what, 88? You know, that technology that created the water, the pseudopod, that was the technology that led directly to them being able to do the T-1000 in Terminator 2, which led to effects innovations that led him to do whether it's True Lies, Titanic, but then, of course, Avatar, leading up to Avatar, which is probably the most astounding effects film ever made, really, if you think about it. The entire movie's like a special effect. It's incredible. But I'm with you. I think old Jimmy Boy, don't ever bet against James Cameron. Don't do it. Don't do it. As a writer-director, he's delivered the goods time and time again. I think you're absolutely right, Stu. Don't bet against Jimmy. Never do it. Never do it. This comes from Colin L. Colin L says, "Hi, Rob. It's a long road for a film project from concept to completion. If you were midway through your dream movie and one of your producers came to you and said, 'Rob, we've got a problem,' several terrible possibilities would jump into your head. So the question is, what are some of the major pitfalls that can waylay a production? What have you personally witnessed? Like a stalled plane, were they able to pull up in time? What are just some general production tripping hazards?" Oh my God, there's so many. I mean, first of all, I've often heard making a movie is like is controlling chaos, or it's like fighting a war. You're landing on the beaches of Normandy under enemy fire. Like my favorite saying, or one of my favorite sayings, the best battle plans never survive first contact with the enemy. And that's true. You can plan as much as you want, and there's always some craziness that's happening. Look, for the most part, movie productions are really well planned, meticulously planned, and they usually go off without a hitch. But there's always things that you can't foresee. Like Apocalypse Now comes to mind. Martin Sheen, after they finally got their lead actor, Harvey Keitel didn't work out, but they finally settled on Martin Sheen. The production was so difficult and so stressful, he had a heart attack in the middle of production. Can you imagine? Then, of course, they had it was a hurricane or a typhoon or something, destroyed all their sets. I mean, that's act of God, force majeure, all that, but still, like, what do you do? When Douglas Trumbull was directing his movie Brainstorm, the great special effects artist, Natalie Wood died before the movie was finished. And it's I can't imagine. Brandon Lee in The Crow, Oliver Reed in Gladiator, they passed away during the film's production. There was a lot of trickery, visual effects trickery that had to be employed. Can you imagine losing one of your main characters while a movie was being made? I can't even imagine. But usually, I mean, those are the things. You lose your financing. I was 2 days away from shooting Free Enterprise, The Wrath of Shatner. 2 days away! And we lost our funding. We were supposed to have a drawdown. We were supposed to go pay for equipment and move forward. Nope. Sorry, the money that we were promised, not showing up. Movie never got made. So there's all kinds of things. It's really hard. First of all, it's almost impossible to get a movie greenlit. It's impossible to get people to be in your movie. It's one miraculous event after another. So, look, if you work at a studio and they know you're making the movie, it's a lot easier. But independent productions, my God, you name it, it'll happen. And you have to be ready for it. You have to be able to survive the craziness. But yeah, but that's not to say that most productions, when you have really good people working on them, good line producers or good first ADs, you can make a movie without a hitch, and it's a glorious thing to behold. I don't mean to say that every movie goes astray or awry. It does not. Most movies, especially studio movies, have the best people in the world working on them, so it usually turns out okay. Let's see. This one comes from Mario Lopez. Hello, Rob. I have come to present a new theme. Sir, you do not imagine the pleasure it has given me to see your live streams and to see you read letters that I have written. And here is your new letter. Do we still have favorite actors, or is that link lost? In the past, actors, usually men, were our idols, and we paid to see them in whatever film. They had legions of fans, men who wanted to be like them, women who dreamt of being with them. Studios, directors, producers, none of them mattered. It was rare to even know their names. But now, who do we see? Our heroes become directors, along with fan legions. Examples of this: James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, Zack Snyder. But being idolized and having legions of fans can be a passing thing, just a poorly said phrase, a more or less serious error, or even a malicious rumor, and they would lose everything. We even see actors and directors being attacked by their peers or by others close to them. I don't forget what was said when Ricky Gervais performed at the Golden Globes in 2020, and I confess I laughed out loud at everything he said about Hollywood. Me too. But I think there are some actors who are or were genuinely friendly and good people, two of whom are no longer with us, Patrick Swayze and Paul Walker. Interestingly, I remember two films. One of them, Point Break, where the friendship of a police officer, Johnny Utah, represented by Keanu Reeves, another great guy, with a thief surfer, and Bodhi, represented by Patrick Swayze, a friendship that goes beyond Law and Order. The other film, The Fast and the Furious, where once again we have a policeman and a thief who are still friends despite being on opposite sides. I'm talking about the characters of Brian O'Connor and Dominic Toretto, represented by Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. The friendship of both characters was a mark of success that was later developed and deepened in other films in this franchise until the tragic death of Paul Walker. For me, The Fast and the Furious were never the same after his death. Patrick Swayze and Paul Walker, rest in peace. Both of you are immortal, but still we miss you guys. Robert, thank you for reading this letter. Kind regards, Mario Lopez. Well, yeah, I mean, I think nowadays it's not just actors. I mean, actors used to be, they represented a singular force, I think, in the world. Nowadays, there's as many people that love Kylie Jenner as would like to say love whatever movie star there is. There's so many people to love, so many places to love them. But I think that movies have sort of shifted. Movies were, I guess they were the dream of civilization, the dream of society. Movies were all of our hopes and dreams writ large on the big screen. And now movies are taking us away from our dreams to elsewhere, to other places, universes that aren't going to ever exist, but at least a place where we could be safe because the Avengers are there, or the Justice League is there, or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think actors, we still love actors, but I think there's a lot more awareness now. There's a lot less reverence for these kinds of things than there used to be. And we've heard so many different stories. I mean, look at Armie Hammer. I mean, I look at Armie Hammer, I'm like, that was one tall, handsome dude. I even loved his voice, like in The Social Network. That was the first time I remember seeing him. And even I had a man crush on Armie Hammer. He was one hunka burning love. And now that poor guy, I mean, for the career he was trying to build for himself, now all anybody is going to get is sexual misconduct and talking about cannibalism and eating flesh and all that. I mean, so much for my man crush on Armie Hammer. So what do you do with that? I'm like, man, if I was Armie Hammer, I have to tell you that I loved Armie Hammer, but now I think of Armie Hammer as William Shockley's character from Showgirls, Andrew Carver, and what Andrew Carver does to Nomi's friend that gets her the job on Goddess. That was hardcore. I see Armie Hammer as William Shockley's character now from Showgirls. Now, that everything that is being said about him might be nuts and might not be true, but I can't help it. The damage has been done. He's William Shockley's character. He's Andrew Carver from Showgirls. That's how I see him, and that bums me out. But I think that's why the shift has moved over to the author, which is kind of where it should be. Authors have themselves become much bigger celebrities in our culture. The J.K. Rowlings, the Stephen Kings, the James Pattersons, all of those people. And I think authorship is true of films now. We like films not necessarily because of who's in them, but because of who made them, which from my perspective is probably better anyway. Actors work the least amount of time on a film, whereas a guy like Christopher Nolan, who writes his own stuff, a true auteur, how long he could spend years writing a story, and then he finally nails it, he goes and makes it, and we get an Inception. And what's not to love about that? So yes, it is a different world in which we live. But really like that letter. I want to thank you for reading that. It's good. It's good. Let's see what you are saying in the old Chatterooski. Let's see. I don't know. I'm going to have to go over there and find out. And it'll be fun to find out. I don't know why I'm having such a difficult time with this software today, but for some reason, it's being difficult. Yeah, it's still being difficult. Well, I'll just jump in. I'll just jump in here. You'll have to trust me. I'm going to read them. I'm going to read everything you say. First of all, there was a few things I wanted to get to from, I believe, yesterday. Let me go back here and see. Box Office sends in a tip and says, John Wayne played Genghis Khan in The Conqueror. Mickey Rooney played an Asian in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Eddie Murphy played a Jew in Coming to America 2. Why was Eddie Murphy okay and the others not, or were they? Good question. I mean, this is people have been asking me. I don't know if Box Office asked the same thing. Look, again, I would say here's what I think about this. John Wayne playing Genghis Khan. John Wayne, first of all, looks nothing like Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was an East Asian. Probably multi-ethnic, by the way. I don't know. I don't know what all of his makeup was, but, of Asian descent. John Wayne is not. So I wouldn't hire John Wayne simply because he didn't fit the role. They hired him anyway because he meant box office. And after all, an actor should be able to play anybody, right? Well, I don't necessarily think that's true. And unless you're watching Cloud Atlas, where everybody played everybody, I just think that was stupid. Why would you cast John Wayne? For me, if I was producing that movie, I'd be like, bruh, I would get Tony Leung to play Genghis Khan. That would be closer. That'd be closer to what? But it's a bad idea. Mickey Rooney playing an Asian. Mickey Rooney wasn't just playing an Asian. He was playing a caricature of an Asian. And it was a disparaging performance. It was comedic, but it was disparaging. And when Eddie Murphy is playing a Jewish man in Coming to America, he's completely under makeup. You would never know it's Eddie Murphy. The transformation is astonishing. So in a way, the whole joke with Coming to America is not that Eddie Murphy was somehow in whiteface. The fact was you didn't know it was Eddie Murphy. And when Coming to America came out, people didn't know it was Eddie Murphy. And I think that there isn't, look, rightly or wrongly, the portrayal of Asians in American cinema, Hollywood cinema over the last 100 years has not exactly been flattering. Just like the portrayal of Asians has not been exactly flattering. And these are two examples of two egregiously bad miscastings where somebody who was actually like Genghis Khan or actually like, for instance, a real Asian dude might have been better in the roles. It's looked upon as it's disparaging. Whereas Eddie Murphy playing a Jewish guy, it's not like, the black population of the earth has been known, or the black American population has been known for persecuting Jews throughout history. There isn't that history. And so when Eddie Murphy's doing it, you're not seeing a black man portraying a Jewish guy. You're seeing a white, old Jewish actor. That was kind of the whole point. So it's a different vibe. I think it's a very different thing, to be honest. Dakota sends in a tip and says, the director doesn't necessarily have to have an understanding of the source material. It is the screenwriters that truly have to have an understanding of a given source material. The director just needs to visualize it from the script. No. Look, I think that if you have a good script that's based on source material, then you need to understand the story that you're telling. You might not have read, if a director doesn't read the book that something is based on, all of whatever the authors were trying to to bring through, or whatever the story is that it's being told, should come through in the script. That doesn't mean the director doesn't have to read the source material, but the director still has to understand the adaptation of the source material, which means he has to understand the story that's being told. And when you say a director just needs to visualize it from the script, you know how hard that is? Being a good director is one of the hardest things in the world. You have to be thinking, literally, you have to be thinking three-dimensionally, actually four-dimensionally, 100% of the time. Being a director is unbelievably difficult work. And to make a movie, it's like alchemy. Like I've said, it's like spinning straw into gold. It's really, really hard, which is why there aren't that many, when you think about it, that many great movies that get made. So, Dakota goes on to say, just knowing and understanding the craftsmanship that goes into some Hot Toys, it is amazing the detail given the cost. If I could, there are a few figures that I would love to have. Truly, some Hot Toys are works of art. Different show now, but art. I agree with you, Dakota. That's why I love Hot Toys. I mean, they're, as far as action figures go, they're the best iteration, especially from a major company that I think has ever existed. And that's what makes them fun to buy, is because, you know, if you're a fan, the costumes are recreated as accurately as possible. The characters look exactly or as realistic as possible. That makes them fun to have. To me, I find Hot Toys completely inspiring because it's a representation of everyone's work. And I think that's amazing. You guys are the best. Andrew Christie says, uh-oh, Rob, I ended up purchasing the Panasonic DP UB820 along with Lord of the Rings, newly remastered, Back to the Future, and the Matrix trilogies. I think I just opened a can of worms. Now, you do have a 4K TV, yes? By the way, all of those that you mentioned, all of those, Back to the Future and the Matrix, and Lord of the Rings, they look amazing on 4K. Report back. Tell me what you think. Dakota says, I remember Pierce Brosnan from the movie The Lawnmower Man. Great movie, but what the hell happened to the sequel? Oh, man. Yeah. That sequel. Woo. Some may like it, but I give them that they tried something different by taking it more into the cyber world with new effects at the time. Yeah, it just doesn't work. By the way, if you really want to blow your mind, The Lawnmower Man is based on a short story by Stephen King that appeared in the book Night Shift. If you really want to blow your mind, go and read the original story. They do recreate it in the movie Lawnmower Man, but certainly not the same thing. Certainly not. Yeah. Ross Gecko sends in a super chat and says, thank you for the backstory on how you got Shatner for Free Enterprise. Will you ever work with Mark Altman again, perhaps on Pandora, perhaps a Femme Fatales feature? Well, as you know, I mean, I did direct and edit 5 episodes of Femme Fatales for Mark. That was fun. And, yeah, I mean, I would work with Mark. We do the Inglorious Trexperts podcast together. But, yeah, I mean, we've just kind of gone in down different paths. You know, if he asked me to work on Pandora, I would. I think that, you know, he's doing something different with that show. Yeah, I mean, I would totally work with him. I would love to. They were going to make a Femme Fatales feature, and they didn't. I mean, it would be fun to do. I love working on Femme Fatales. It was so much fun. Armani Martinez sends in a super chat and says, can Dr. Fate see into Zack Snyder's Justice League and acknowledge it? I think he can. Why not? You know, I'm sure he absolutely, if anybody could, he could. Paul Gilmore says, hey, Rob, have you seen 1973's Swedish revenge movie Thriller? A Cruel Picture, a.k.a. They Call Her One Eye, the English title. If so, your thoughts? Oh, yes, Paul, I own that. I own the DVD. Now, what's interesting is the movie that Paul is talking about is a rape revenge film. And basically, Thriller, A Cruel Picture, Daryl Hannah's character in Kill Bill was inspired by this. Thriller, A Cruel Picture is a very cruel picture. Basically, a girl's waiting to go to school. She gets abducted. She gets strung out on drugs, on heroin, and she gets forced into prostitution. Then she breaks free and becomes a whirling dervish of revenge going out and getting all the people that have wronged her. Now, what's really interesting about it, they call her One Eye as a harsh movie. That was the American version, but the original Swedish version, Thriller: A Cruel Picture, has hardcore pornography in it. It has hardcore sex scenes because it's Swedish. Go Sweden. But it's a very I mean, I like it because as a rape revenge picture, it's really good. The revenge she takes is very satisfying, but it's rough, man. I have a real hard time with extreme violence against women in a realistic setting. Jason and Hellraiser and all that, that's fine. But these kinds of movies really disturb me. Like I told you, I've never been able to get through the rape scene in Irreversible. I've honestly never been able to sit through it. I'm so disturbed by it. I can't. I've skipped through it, but I can't watch it. I can't. I literally, it's just too hard to watch that kind of brutalization of a woman, especially when she's Monica Bellucci. Just hardcore. But it's not a bad film. There's a reason it's a classic of its genre. It certainly delivers the goods, if that's what you're looking for, man. It is hardcore. Simon says, greetings, Rob. I've lived over 40 plus years of my life enjoying DC and Marvel, but after hearing Ann Sarnoff and Jody's don't go into his hate cult YouTube channel, please don't, I'm at the point to where I feel anger, disgust, and bitterness towards Warner Brothers because, having seen historical iterations of Superman and Batman from Kirk Allen to Tyler Hoechlin and from Lewis Wilson to Ben Affleck, I've come to my truth. Warner Brothers hates DC fans. Yeah, I know about the content on HBO Max, CW-verse, but that is small potatoes compared to realistically making a commitment to DC fans in such a way as Disney has with enjoying a Kevin Feige-type person. Warner Brothers will studio interfere. Warner Brothers will offset fans and expectations, such as that creates despair when talks of an upcoming DC movie is pitched. Examples, Man of Steel 2, Green Lantern. I know that they have Walter Hamada, but I still have a feeling that WB is evil. So this is why I have this emotion towards WB with DC. I wish DC was Disney. Well, how to answer this? Here's the thing. You know, the problem that I think that we have as fans, and I include myself in this as well, is that we expect a studio that is making this product that we're interested in. Remember, we're not interested in every movie that Warner Brothers makes, only movies that are appeal to imagination connoisseurs. In my mind, every movie appeals to imagination connoisseur, but what I'm saying is that not every movie's got a fan base. But you have to understand that Warner Brothers does not exist to cater to the fans. And I agree with you. The thing is, Kevin Feige is unique. Remember, there's been nobody in Hollywood history like Kevin Feige. His job is to only produce Marvel movies. I mean, yeah, he's going to go produce Star Wars or something else, but for the most part, right now, he's produced, the 23 movies that we've seen, the 27 with 4 that we have not, the TV shows that we've got coming. We've saw WandaVision. We're in the middle of Falcon and Winter Soldier. We've got Loki coming, then the animated series What If, then Hawkeye, and then this, the 4 movies that we've got coming out. We've got Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man 3, even though it's Sony. I mean, what they're doing is enormous, but that's his job. So his films feel more fan-friendly because he's, as a fan himself, he's making movies the way he'd want to see them made. There's nobody at Warner Brothers like that. The people that work at Warner Brothers do not. Ann Sarnow, I thought her comments were disappointing to me as well, but you can't get mad at Ann Sarnow for being did I say Sarnoff? And Sarnoff. You can't be, I just knew of someone named Sarnow. You can't get mad at her for doing her job. Her job is not to appeal to fans. And we have a tendency to forget that. When somebody makes a movie that we as fans want to see, we think, well, that's our movie. They better have done it right. But in her case, I mean, they don't have a Kevin Feige. That's what they are desperately missing over there. They're like, wow, she would tell you that that's what Jim Lee is supposed to do. Jim Lee's not a movie producer. Kevin Feige is he's taking his projects from conception to release and beyond, even how they're released. He has his hands in everything. That's what Warner Brothers needs. They have executives that hire people, but there's not an executive that's also intimately involved in every aspect of production. That's what they have in Kevin Feige. There just isn't anybody in Hollywood. Very few people in Hollywood exist like that, so they can't do it. She's trying to do stuff with the properties. Look, that's why you hire like somebody like Andy Muschietti, who made It. Hopefully, Andy Muschietti's going to take that material and give us something that we really love, and he won't be interfered with by the studio. That they'll all be on the same page, and it'll all work out. But don't be disgusted by Warner Brothers for being the company that it is. I think we as fans, when we start expecting a company like Warner Brothers to cater to what we know and love, we're the ones that are in the wrong. We're the ones that are in the wrong. That's not to say that they're not. Warner Brothers is not treating you badly as a fan. That's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to protect their own corporate interests by making the best films they can with the best filmmakers. The problem is, like so many other things, they don't exactly understand their own fan base, so they run into trouble. The executives at Warner Brothers don't even understand. What you need is somebody like Kevin Feige, who made 13 Marvel movies before he started the Marvel universe, before the MCU, saw what mistakes were made, understands. There's nobody at Warner Brothers that knows. You know, Ann doesn't know anything about Ann Sarnoff doesn't know anything about comics. That wasn't her job. She comes in, she runs Warner Brothers. You'd think she'd learn, but she's never going to be a fan. She'll pick this stuff up and give it a cursory glance and be like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand, but she's never going to understand the way things like the way we understand things. So I think that the fact that they're putting Dr. Fate in the Black Adam movie, I'm excited. I hope the movie's really, really good. I think the people that are making it will probably make a good film out of it all. At least I hope so. And I think we should take a wait and see. Don't hate Warner Brothers, because remember, they're still out there producing all kinds of movies. We're getting Godzilla vs. Kong, and with that director's a huge fan. We're getting a lot of interesting stuff. So temper your dislike for them, and yeah, that's what I would say. Raymond Verada says Evan Peters is cast as Jeffrey Dahmer in the Netflix series. They can't catch him now. Laugh out loud, man. I know. That's got to be one dark series. I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer was a true around the bend crazy of epic proportions, man. That guy. Wow. But I think it's really good casting, though. I think it's really good casting, especially coming out of American Horror Story. I'm sure he'll crush it. Stubble McShave says, if you want to try Pratchett's work, you can see this site and choose one book or a theme of books, such as Death or City Watch. Ooh. I get the Hitchhiker's comparison. I prefer Pratchett to Adams. Ooh, well. Yeah, I mean, I can understand. Adams is he was like telling jokes, whereas I think Terry Pratchett's more about telling stories, although I'm not saying Hitchhikers isn't a story because I loved Hitchhikers. But my favorite Hitchhikers thing is still the radio show. Duroc Media is here. Hi, Rob. Nothing special. Just rewatched the last couple of parts of Snyder's Justice League, and I think I fall in love with it more and more, even though I was not a fan of Whedon's. Me too. I didn't like that movie at all, and I thoroughly enjoy it. You're absolutely right, Duroc. And that's what I love about it, because it's broken into sections. You can just watch a section now. Now that you know it, you can enjoy it. Like The Age of Heroes, I think I've watched it like 4 times. I like that. So it's cool. I'm with you there. Stub McShave says, by the way, is there an animated series that drops on Netflix tomorrow? Plug time. Yes, there is. As many people know, a series that I worked on for Netflix in a small way. Dota, Dragon's Blood, is available on the 25th. Probably at midnight tonight, I guess. Midnight our time. It is an 8-episode series, or as they're calling it, Book 1. Hopefully people will watch, and we will get a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10 seasons. Created by Ashley Edward Miller, who co-wrote Agent Cody Banks and Thor and X-Men First Class. He was a producer on Fringe, and he was on Black Sails and Lore and all kind Andromeda, one of the reboots of the Twilight Zone. He has done a lot, and it's his show, and I got to work on it. I have a pretty good credit in the end credits too, so you'll stay. My name's, even though lots of credits are small, my name's pretty big in the end credits. Very proud of it. But that drops tomorrow, so check it out. Tell me what you think. Duroc Media sends in a super chat again and says, okay, long day of work, might need to nap, so I may not be awake when you read these, but I shall sleep to the soothing sound of your voice. Laugh out loud. Well, Duroc, I hope after this long day of work that you slept well, that you took a nap and you dreamt of wonderful things, things you hope will happen, things that might happen, and things that will never happen. But whatever you dreamt of, it'll put a smile on your face. Something like that? How's that? Rob Burnett's ASMR channel coming to YouTube. DJ N sends in a super chat and says, this is exactly the embodiment of the drive that drove me to continue to fight for Zach's vision from the beginning, because it's a human vision. I agree. I think so too. I agree. DJ N sends in a super chat and says, but hashtag restore the Snyderverse, what's wrong with that? Hashtag Zack Snyder's Justice League shows us Zack Snyder has more to tell. Nothing wrong in supporting good storytelling. Yeah, but you know what? If you're going to support Zack Snyder in storytelling, you got to go over to Netflix and support what he's got coming up in May with Army of the Dead. You know, he's there. What I would hate to see is, I would hope that all the goodwill that has been generated from the Snyder Cut movement follows Zack and his work. Don't demand Zack makes work that only you want to see, or that a lot of people want to see. Would I like to see a follow-up to his Justice League? Yeah, I'd like to see him finish that trilogy now. I would. But he's got something good at Netflix with people that really respect him. He's got Army of the Dead coming out. They got a prequel series he's producing and an animated series, because Netflix is now in the Zack Snyder business. And I'm happy to see that happen for him. I think any filmmaker wants that. Netflix probably gives him autonomy, and Warner Brothers, they just weren't nice to him. So why be there? Why stick around? But I know what you mean. I would love to see it too. I would love to see it. So yeah. Coughtron says, you're a sage. Thanks for inspiration. Been all over, not recently. Want more, as you suggest, I know. Here after the toy stream, I know you from Collider and your manic trivia god. Glad for the place you're in now. Well, thank you for that. It's very nice of you to say, Coughtron. Very nice of you to say. Regis K says, hi, Rob. I just want to give a shout out to Andy Park and Ryan Meinerding, the heads of visual development at the MCU. They are responsible for all the fantastic costumes, stellar scripts, amazing voice acting, and the trilogy itself is perfect in my eyes. Wait a minute. That is, I just read that was a thing flickered, and I just read two things at once. Regis K says, hi, Rob. I just want to give a shout out to Andy Park and Ryan Meinerding, the heads of visual development for the MCU. They're responsible for all the fantastic costumes we see on screen. Anyone interested in their great concept art should check them out. Yeah, I talked to Andy Park on a live stream for the Mainframe Comic-Con. Really interesting stuff. And I think that they do a fantastic job. The art of the Marvel books is great. And I think the costume design, man, they nail that stuff. It's impeccable. They do a fantastic job. But you're absolutely right. Anybody interested, they do great stuff. You can check out the stuff they do, and you can see it in the books and follow what they do online. They're really, really, really talented. Justin Jorgensen. Hello, Justin. Hello, Rob. Happy to be here. You want to know my favorite animated trilogy of all time? Kung Fu Panda. It's so deep with its themes about family and friendship, stellar scripts, amazing voice acting, and the trilogy itself is perfect in my eyes. Thoughts? I agree with you. I have those movies right over there. I'm a big Kung Fu Panda. Yes, I you know what? I would not take that away from you. I think you're absolutely right about that. It is an incredible trilogy. It's they always stick that landing really, really good. Really, really good. Pod Racing Palpatine, JF Cadron, Geek Central, Kirsty Steele, Darth Tasty 2099, Eric Jewett, Jim O'Neill became members. Actually, Jim O'Neill didn't. Jim O'Neill sent a super chat. Hi, Rob. I have a new name for the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut fans. I think we should now call them the Flash Mob, considering they reversed time to right a wrong. That's pretty funny. I like that. The Flash Mob. I'm going to start using that. Are you part of the Flash Mob? And now we're going to have a new Flash movie. And that's kind of cool. I'm all for it. I can't wait. Let's see. Nick Parrish. Okay. Sends in a tip 1 of 3. What's up, Rob? So I have to be honest. If I was a big theater chain CEO today, I would be making earth-shattering decisions. I'm talking about 40% lower ticket prices at all locations permanently, half off popcorn, $1 fountain drinks. I know you're probably thinking, man, but you might go out of business. The point, though, is if the studios are going to take me out anyway, I'd rather go out with a fight on my own terms. The bottom line is that while the theaters may be taking big losses, they'll prove that people will pack theaters at unbeatable prices, regardless of day and date stuff, and they'll be remembered fondly by people again instead of being clowned for their prices. I would hope that would be true, but I don't know. I think the problem is, in the 50s when television was first introduced, they introduced real widescreen cinematography and widescreen filmmaking, giant CinemaScope pictures, and that was something you couldn't see on TV. Well, now the movie theaters, the only thing they have that we can't have on TV is great presentation. And the bigger our TVs get at home and the bigger our stereo systems get, what are movie theaters going to do to compete? Like, why do you get out of the house? I mean, I like to go to the Chinese theater to see things in IMAX because I love their laser projection, and that sound system is killer. And they always play it loud. I love that. That will get me out of the house. I'll take trains. I'll drive. However I have to get to the middle of Hollywood. I like taking the train because you don't have to park. It's fun. Half a block from my house is a train station. I take it down to Union Station, grab the train to Hollywood, and I get off right at the Chinese theater. It's the greatest thing ever. And I will roll out. It's because of the presentation. And also the problem is, too, you know what? Other people. Hell is other people. People in the movie theater talking and on their phones and all that. It's not good. But I think it's tough. I think, if you're going to go out, you don't want to throw good money after bad. You want to hang on to that as much as you can. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Ferret Man says, can HBO Max continue the Snyderverse? They could, if they want to, but I think DC's got so much going on. Warner Brothers has so much going on with their theatrical movies. You've got Black Adam, Zatanna, you've got Aquaman 2 coming, Wonder Woman 3. I think the Snyderverse, look, if anything, what I want them to do is make that Terminator Batman movie. I hope Ben Affleck makes that Terminator Batman movie. That would be a direct continuation of the Snyderverse. It wouldn't break the bank. I think you should go make that movie and don't spend $200 million. Go make it gritty on the streets. Do like The Town and do like Argo and make your Batman Terminator movie. That's how I would extend the Snyderverse if I had to. I don't think we're ever going to get the Justice League, but I wouldn't mind it. Duroc Media says, okay, I'm still awake. I do have a question. You always talk about being stoked for Moon Knight. I know nothing about it. Could you hype me? Well, that's a good question. Let me see where I'm at here. I don't think I have anything that I can grab a hold of right now that's at arm's length. Maybe I do. Hang on. Let me see. No. Yeah, I don't have anything I can grab hold of. Moon Knight is... when I started reading Moon Knight, the reason I love it, it was very similar to Batman. The character of Moon Knight was a mercenary that was fighting in places like... He was basically a soldier for hire. He worked with a guy named Bushman who had a tattoo of a skull on his face. His face was tattooed like a skull. And he believes that he was left for dead, but the Egyptian god Khonshu has resurrected him. So he uses his wealth. He moves back to New York City, and he fights crime, much like Batman does. But he has a manservant, Frenchie, that's like Alfred. But what was cool about Moon Knight was he has different alter egos. Like he's a cab driver, Jake Lockley, who goes out in the night and looks for bad things going on. And that's how he literally keeps his ears close to the ground to see what's going on. Then there's Stephen Grant, millionaire playboy. And then there is his Mark Spector persona. That's who he really is. And then, of course, there's Moon Knight. And it was much more like Batman was. Look, Moon Knight started out as a Batman ripoff. But from the get, there was always there's a supernatural element to Moon Knight, like when he ran afoul of the Werewolf by Night character where he was introduced. And there was also definitely more of a film noir element. More so. I mean, there was film noir in Batman, but this was even more so. And I loved that Moon Knight character. It's more, you know what I would say? Moon Knight is Batman with more femme fatales and more jazz. You know? That's, if that makes any sense. And no Justice League, even though he's been a member of the Avengers. When I was reading him, he wasn't there yet. So that's why I love that character. Sheriff Carl says, I remember watching a documentary on Jeffrey Dahmer while staying overnight at my cousin's when I was about 9. My cousin's almost 20 years older and apparently felt it was fine. Man, that shit gave me the fucking willies. Still does, yet I am fascinated by it. Me too. I'm fascinated about how a human being can see human beings in the most dehumanizing of ways. Like, how does that happen? And what a horror character. I mean, scary shit. Totally. Total scary shit. And I agree. Trent sends in a tip and says, Rob, what is your favorite thing about the Star Wars sequels? I don't love the sequels, but I love how they talk about the balance of the Force, darkness rises, and light to meet it. The Last Jedi is the best made, even though some of it is complete shite. You know what? To be honest, yeah, I think The Last Jedi is the best made of the movies, and it almost makes the most sense, but I don't like the sequel trilogy at all. I even when I saw Force Awakens, I'm like, I hated it. And I felt that it was one mistake after another. There was nothing in those movies that I liked. I thought that how can you not put the classic characters together and give them one last mission if that's all we're going to see of them? Introduce new characters in the service of our classic characters and let them. There's not much in the sequel trilogy that I like. Not much. I don't even like the fact that all we get is TIE fighters and X-Wings. There's no new ships? I mean, the Millennium Falcon could be the ship that you pass down through the ages, but there's no new ships? It's like 30 years later and they're still flying X-Wings and Y-Wings? Like, what? What? Anyway, I understand what you're saying about the darkness and the light, but all that was stuff that was built upon what Star Wars already did. It wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything... I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I know it's probably sacrilegious of me to say, but I don't know what to tell you. Simon says, okay, I can temper my feelings about Warner Brothers, and I'll let you know this. I cry whenever I come across the negative walls that Warner Brothers puts up with creating DC movies, as well as what Paramount is allowing to be of Star Trek. I hope that Strange New Worlds can do better. Please know that I know Sarnoff is just doing her job, and I cannot blame her. It's just Warner Brothers' system that I don't like. Live long and prosper. Warp 5. No, Simon, look, I'm totally with you. But I think that ultimately what happens is you have to remember, ultimately all fans need to remember that, look, the things that we love they almost got successful despite of themselves. If the Star Wars, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Trek were all sort of birthed out of the minds of certain people. George Lucas, Gene Roddenberry, even Kevin Feige had to watch 13 different Marvel movies. Some worked, some didn't, before the MCU was started. So I would say the MCU lives and dies with Kevin Feige and Victoria Alonso and Louis D'Esposito. The problem with Star Wars is it was taken over by a corporation and there was no Kevin Feige to run it. Kathleen Kennedy's, she's a great producer, but she's not someone that's coming up. She's not a writer. She didn't come up with these stories. She was trying to hire the best people for the job, and yet Disney was always like, but this is what we need. We need these corporate decisions as opposed to the stories, where all these things that we fell in love with are the products of singular or creators, multiple creators that were all working synergistically together. They weren't defined by corporations, and then the corporations end up buying them, and these franchise properties now become they define these corporations. The corporations need them to work, but by definition, then the franchises that we love can't work like how they began because they're now entities of a corporation. They're no longer they don't spring out of the minds of single creators, and it's a bummer. And once that happens, it could never. That's why I didn't like. The Star Wars sequels seemed to me that they were given, J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan were given mandates from on high, and they had to live up to those as opposed to come up with really great stories. I mean, Solo, to me, feels like the most complete story. I mean, Rogue One's pretty good too, but even that, the idea was given to one person that had one at ILM has the idea, and then it's John Knoll, I think, which is a good idea, but then again, it becomes a corporate product, and it's a bummer. Yeah. DJN says, Zack Snyder will be supported in a way forward. Hashtag Stone Quarry. Hashtag here for Zack will do. Whatever Zack wants to do. Talking to him now and tomorrow, we'll tell him about your kind words. Oh, yeah, no, like I said, ever since I saw Dawn of the Dead, and I was so adamantly opposed to not like that movie, and because Dawn of the Dead's one of my favorite films of all time, the original, and when I saw it, I was like, it's pretty good. Pretty good. One Shot sends in a super chat and says, Rob, the Suicide Squad original teaser has 70 million views, and all the comments are about the David cut of the film. Warner Brothers and HBO should make it happen. Interest is there. Yeah, maybe. I mean, the thing about Suicide Squad is it made more money than they expected it to make, so they see it as a success. Whereas Zack Snyder's Justice League, it couldn't have gotten any worse. So I don't know. I don't know if and even David Ayer is kind of like, David Ayer's like, I don't know, maybe not now. So Andrew Christie says, damn, Rob, even now, or now even, I want you to start an ASMR channel. I could do that. I could read. Somebody would have to write me good material. And I could do that and put you all to sleep. That'd be kind of fun to do. Nick Parrish says, so Rob, now that Black Widow's been pushed, the secondary studios are saying, this is our chance. Guy Ritchie's Wrath of Man has moved up to Black Widow's original date, and the Jigsaw reboot Spiral has moved up to May 14th. It's not Black Widow, but okay. Oh, man, I'll go see Spiral. That's my birthday's May 15th. I used to love to go see horror. I saw the original Friday the 13th as my birthday movie. My dad took me, and me and my friends, to an R-rated horror film. God bless my father. He was a great man. Rest in peace, sir. But yeah, I'm in. Movies are moving up. I think that's great. I love it. And on that note, I'm going to bring this chat to a conclusion. I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel via super chats and tips. Thank you so much for that. I love you when you write in letters, free of charge. You can write letters to the Burnettwork.net. Go to the website. We also publish a lot of letters to look there, and you can read your letters and all of that, which is a lot of fun, I guess, for you. I love reading them. It's fun for me. I want to thank my great moderating staff for being the moderators that they are. I want to thank Mike Bodden, and I want to thank The Richard. I want to thank Bunyan Snipe from the UK, who's here. Greg Smith is here. Justin Toner's here. Greg Smith was not feeling well the other day. I hope Greg Smith is okay. Justin Jorgensen. How are you, Justin? Thanks for the tip, by the way. All of you for being great moderators. If you like these chats, please hit the like button, because that helps the analytics. And hit the notification bell and all of that. And we do have member chats. We're not going to do a Zoom call this weekend, but we are going to have another after show, I think, for members. I think I'm going to do one tomorrow as well. Those are always fun. I just hang out with the members and shoot the shit, whatever you want to talk about. And that's always a good thing. I'm not on the John Campea show tomorrow because it is Thursday. And remember, one more reminder, if you have Netflix, Dota Dragon's Blood drops tomorrow, the 25th. 8 episodes, each episode about 22 minutes long, 23 minutes, 24 minutes, I guess, with credits. 8 episodes, and I think if you like Dota Dragon, if you like the Dota 2 game, But if you like fantasy and you like science fiction and you like epic fantasy and science fiction, I think you're going to get a kick out of it. The Legend of Korra and Transylvania, Castlevania. Studio Mir did great animation, and if you're a fan of adult anime, I think you're going to really dig it. It has a lot of surprising members of the cast, not just the main cast, but there's a lot of genre, a lot of imagination connoisseur favorites who show up doing roles that you might least expect them to be doing, but they are there. It's a lot of fun. The show's a lot of fun. Love to hear back what you think of it. And on that note, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say to all of you, have a better day.